Hi guys. Today we are going to be going over notes number 4 about the President and Vice President of the United States. This is only for those kids who are not in class this week. If you were here this week in class, we did it with the Monday, Tuesday group, and I will do it with the Thursday, Friday group starting tomorrow. So again, just those people who couldn't be here in class today. This is for you. Remember, these notes are in your Google Classroom, so you can print them. You can hopefully type right in. You can type it on a separate sheet, however you want to do it. At the very top, there's a link. I'm not sure if you can click on this. I'm going to add this link with this video as well, so you can watch this. This goes through our 45 presidents in order and gives you one kind of random weird fact about them, which is kind of cool because I'm sure some of these presidents you don't even know and haven't heard about. So it goes from George Washington through President Trump. And they're going to have to make another one probably in a couple months to include President-elect Biden as well. So this, again, this little link, but again, I will put it down with this video too, so you can look at it. It takes like 4 minutes, goes through all the presidents, some kind of interesting, cool, random, weird stuff. Okay, first part is all about qualifications. We did this last week and the week before with the House and the Senate. This is for the President of the United States. We know by now, hopefully, that the way we get our president is through the Electoral College. It's all about those electoral votes. To become president, you need 270 electoral votes. Currently, as things stand, President-elect Biden has over 300. So it does look like he definitely will be our 46th president of the United States. In addition, you need to be 35 years old to become president of the United States. The House of Representatives was 25, Senate 30, this is 35. So they went up by 5 years for each position. And kind of with the way they thought about the positions, they thought the House was kind of the lowest level, the Senate was a little bit more upscale, and then obviously the president, 35 years old. We have never had anyone this young become president. Our youngest president was 42 when they became president, so close, and President-elect Biden will be our oldest president when he's inaugurated on January 20th. Natural-born citizen, that means you had to be born a U.S. citizen. You could not become a citizen through the process by taking the test and everything else. You have to be a natural-born citizen to become president of the United States. Again, this is the only position in the U.S. that you have to be that natural-born citizen. You also have to have resided in the United States for 14 years before running for president. So you could have went and lived in France or England or Germany or Mexico or Canada or wherever else, but then you had to live for 14 years in the United States before running for office. Okay, some of the jobs that the president does, and these are just some of the jobs. You do not have to write all of these. Choose 4 that maybe you think are the most important and put those down. The president is considered to be the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. The main job, the executive branch, he is the chief executive. He is supposed to enforce the laws. Again, he uses the military and the police to back him up with that. Make appointments. Now, when we talk about appointments, he gets to appoint people into positions. They have to be approved, so he can't just appoint anyone, but he is the one who gets to appoint people, place people into their positions, which again, kind of cool job. He has to work with Congress. They're supposed to work with Congress. Recently, that has not gone well with any of our presidents. He is the main representative of the United States. He is actually known as the chief citizen. He's supposed to be a role model. He's supposed to be what people think about when they think of the United States. He's supposed to represent us going to other countries and meeting with their leaders and that kind of thing. He can veto and pass laws, which we've talked about, bill becoming a law, make treaties with other countries, also Native Americans. Again, these have to be approved, so he can't do crazy things, which is good to have that check in there. Pardon federal criminals. Every president, before they go out of office, pardons federal criminals. Usually that there's some proof they were falsely accused or the sentence doesn't really go with the crime. Right now, President Trump is dealing with this, talking about this. There's even some talk of him pardoning his family members. Kind of crazy. We'll talk about that in class as well. Okay, nominate Supreme Court justices. If you remember, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, then President Trump nominated the next Supreme Court justice, and she was approved. And so now the Supreme Court leans more towards the Republican side than the Democrat. Okay, and also defend the Constitution and make sure people are following the Constitution as well, with help from the judicial branch. Okay, again, you don't have to write all those things down. That's not all the things that the president does, but some of his duties that he has. Okay, cabinet. The cabinet is very important. The presidential cabinet was started by George Washington back in the day. George Washington had 3 cabinet members. President Trump currently has 15. Our country is much bigger. Our government is much bigger. We need more people. The purpose of the cabinet is to advise the president. The president cannot be an expert on everything. President Trump is a businessman. He is good with the economy. He's good with business. He needs someone to advise him on legal actions, on military actions. He needs someone to help him with COVID-19. He's not a medical expert. So again, he has a whole group of people that help him, and the cabinet members have other people to help them as well. Okay, selection of the cabinet. The president gets to pick his cabinet. Currently, President-elect Biden is doing this. They have to be approved by Congress, Senate in particular. So there again, another part of checks and balances in place. These are just some of the positions in the cabinet. These positions are considered the inner cabinet. So these are kind of the most important people. Secretary of State deals with foreign countries. Secretary of Treasury deals with money, making our money. Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, all names you will hear coming up quite a bit as Biden is starting to pick his cabinet members. Okay, last part, we already covered this once, but this is something we need to know for our testing at the end of the year. So we're going to go through this real quickly again. These are all amendments after the Bill of Rights that were put in place to deal with the president and vice president as well. The 12th is the first one. All of our first presidents, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, whoever got the most electoral votes became president. Whoever got the second most votes became vice president. So think about that. If this was currently in place right now, December of 2020, our president would be President Trump. Our vice president would be Hillary Clinton because she got the second most electoral votes. Clearly would not work, did not work back in the day either. Same thing right now with the new president coming in. On January 20th of 2021, Biden would be our president, and then Trump would be our vice president because he got the second most amount of electoral votes. So this made it so you have to vote for the president and vice president together. They are a team. You don't vote for separately or just one person for president and then the second place gets the vice. It didn't work. Like I said, back in the day, it would not work today either. It'd be a mess. We saw the debate. We know it would be a mess. Okay, next one, 20th. Right now, President-elect Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th. They changed that date from March. It used to take much longer for them to get ready to go into office, but now it's quicker because we have what's called a lame duck president while they're waiting to move out of office, whether they're term limited, they're moving out, or they were not reelected. 22nd Amendment, then, this is what gave the term limit. You can only serve twice, 8 years altogether. There is a little disclaimer to this. If you take over for a president, if something happens to the president of the United States, and you take over for the president of the United States, then you can serve 2 terms in the remainder of the former president's time. It has to be under 2 years, though. So if Biden serves for 2 years and 2 days, and then Kamala Harris would take over as president, she could still run for 2 terms, okay? 23rd doesn't deal with us a ton, but Washington, D.C. got its own electoral votes because before they weren't included in electing our president. And then last but not least, no, that was on the next page, is the 25th. This set up for how we have our presidential succession. So if something happens to the president of the United States, who takes over? Obviously vice president, but what if something happens to the president and vice president? Then it's the Speaker of the House. Something happened to all 3 of them. It's going to be the head of the Senate then that takes place. So there's a whole hierarchy of who becomes president because we have had 8 presidents die in office. 4 of those were shot and killed. 2 others were shot while they were in the presidency but did not die. And the other ones died from different causes. Some one they believe was poisoned, but we have had 8 presidents who died while in office, and then there was nothing set up for how we would get our next president of the United States. Okay. Then other side, so this is your backside for you guys, is all about the judicial branch, the federal court system, Supreme Court. I have it set out, page numbers at the top here. It's chapter 11. You are going to tell me what each of these are, because this deals with the court system. You're going to tell me about the Supreme Court. Again, how many justices? We've talked about this. You may already know this. 3 jobs of those justices. How long does the justice serve? Okay, and then down below, shaping public policy, which we will talk more about in class as well. But answer these questions as they're written. Again, please use your book. You can Google them. You don't always get the correct information when you go to Google. This follows along with your book. I set it up that way on purpose. So remember, if you have any questions, message me, email me,